Good morning and welcome to Jasiri, the show where we interrogate power, we spotlight truth, and we elevate the voices shaping our collective futures. Now, imagine this. You've been in charge for 42 years. You're 92, meaning that most of your people have never known another leader, which for some is all of their lives. Well, this isn't actually a figment of my imagination. It's a story unfolding in Cameroon where President Paul Biya has announced plans to run for an 8th term this October. Sad. This isn't just about one man or one country. It's about a continent that's caught in a recurring nightmare. It's about power without accountability, about democracy without change, and about leaders who refuse to step aside. From Uganda to Equatorial Guinea, the pattern is eerily familiar, and the people have had enough of it. Now that's a conversation you will find right here on the Jasiri team. But first, Lolo.
But first, News Central recently broke the story of the Katsina Reformatory Center founded by the late President Umar Yar'Adua when he was governor. It was originally established as a facility to rehabilitate youth and promote positive development. However, there have been reports of the center having become a place of torture and abuse. Notably, there have been accounts of severe inhuman treatment, including the case of a 24-year-old Usman Bujawa who lost one of his hands after allegedly being tied to a pole for 3 days. I have to warn you that some of our viewers might find this report disturbing, so please be warned. But we have to take you there.
When words are sent to Reformatory Center, their families expect a reformed child with prospects. But what happens when a center established to rehabilitate troubled youth becomes a den of horror and torture? The scars from severe abuse and neglect obtained from an institution meant to be a place of hope now reveals a darker reality. Katsina Reformatory Center was founded by then Governor Umar Musa Yar'Adua, aiming to combat drug addiction through vocational training and education. But recent testimonies suggest a different horrifying stories.
Gaskiya suna cikin mawuyacin hali inda abincin da suke samu ma baya wadatar da su. Da safe ana basu kunu wanda ake yi da gero wanda dukan shi bai kai quantity in shi bai wuce gwangwanin pig ta ruwa bai wuce wannan shine ake ba manya da yara daga cikin su.
Usman Musa was brought into the center by his relatives, hopeful that he will learn a craft and turn his life around. Instead, he says he faced unimaginable cruelty.
Usman mun kai shi ne a rehabilitation center akan wani issue ba wani abu bane ba, makarantar da mun da muka bincike da muka bincike akan makarantar da muka kai shi an faɗa mana cewa suna ba da ilimi, suna koyar sana'a, suna tarbiyyantar da yara. Za a aji yaro babu wani abokai na banza wanda zai sanya ya rika shaye-shaye, dalilin shaye-shaye ma ne aka kai shi. So duk suka yi mana wannan bayanan muka ji daɗi, muka samu natsuwa, har suna mana ikirarin cewa wani lokacin da za a zo ɗaukar shi za mu ji daɗi.
Usman was allegedly tied, beaten and left to suffer for days. His hands become swollen, infected and eventually gangrenous. It was only when a concerned visitor told Usman's relatives of his predicament that Usman was taken from the center.
Aka shiga da ni kafin a shiga da ni aka tsaya da ni aka sa mini mari a kafa. Bacin an sa min mari a kafa har zan shiga daki sai aka ce in jira. Aka ce in kwanta aka yi min bulala ta welcome to guda 40. Shi principal din, shi Inusa, shi ma akwai wacce yake yi guda 30. Aka yi min bulala ban san iyaka ba, sannan hi aka juya hannuna. Da aka ɗaure shi daban sannan aka hada da fili aka ɗaure ba a minti 5 ba na fara jin wani bala'i ina hada su da Allah su kwance ni dan Allah ni sai man bulala 1000 anan nake yi tsari anan nake komi ba mai taba ni aka kowa ya tafi ya bar ni ya guje ni saboda wari nake yi ba mai tayi nace su kira ni gidanmu a zuwa tai da ni ne dai su ce sun kira ne ta hada su da Allah ne dai su ce sun kira da ba Allah ya sa wannan wanda ya zo ya ga halin da nake ciki ba ya fidi shi ma wannan hannun na san yanke shi
ya fito daga nan, so suna killace shi ne sakamakon ba su son a ga irin cikin condition inda yake hannuwan shi suna wari sun lalace. Sai na gan shi cikin wannan condition din, na ce mashi bawan Allah me ke faruwa, sai yake faɗa mana cewa an daure shi ne. Na ce to insha Allah na ma alƙawari idan na fita zan je zan sanar da magabatanka, da zan sanar da iyayenka halin da kake ciki, da a yanayi idan kika ga halin da yake ciki gaskiya idan ya ƙara kaman kwana 2 ma ko 3 zai iya rasa ran shi.
His family was unaware of the extent of his injuries. They kept coming to visit him in the center, but were said to be denied access by the principal.
A lokacin boy shekaran sallah, tunda mun kai shi ne on 31st May. Wani shekaran sallah na je na kai mai abinci da nama. Da following day ta sallah na je, su ma sauran yan uwana sun je sun nemi su ganin shi ma ba a ba su ganin shi ba. After sun je the following day ni ma na ƙara komawa.
Usman's hand was so severely damaged that it had to be amputated, a permanent reminder of the brutality inflicted upon him. Now, bedridden, scarred physically and psychologically, Usman's story and condition begs for deeper insight.
Wani lokaci sai an kamo ni an ɗaure ni jikin taga wani ɗaki ko wani wuri dai haka sai a ɗaure ni a ci gaba da bani azaba. Suna zuba min ruwa, in na ji wahala ina cewa a bani ruwa in sha. To idan aka kawo ruwan ba bani ake ina sha ba, sai dai wani zai iya yin hitsari ya ce dole ma sai na sha hitsarin.
I went to investigate these allegations. What I found was shocking. A dilapidated facility, chained students, and a culture of violence that cannot be justified. I reached out to the authorities for answers, and despite efforts to get responses, the officials refused to cooperate openly.
I can't answer you this question because it's not to my...
When I finally spoke with the principal, he claimed that Usman was brought in due to drug abuse, theft, and an attempt to kill his mother.
Manganu marasa daɗi yana ɓata mai suna, kuma alhalin ba haka bane ba, har yana magana cewa yana ikirarin ko zai kashe uwar shi. Tunda nake da shi kanina ne, ban taɓa ji ya ce zai kashe mahaifiyar shi ba.
He insisted Usman injured himself trying to escape, but when asked if he took Usman to a hospital, he couldn't produce the hospital card, the doctor's name, or the file number. He said he couldn't answer any more questions, even though he still maintains that there is nothing to hide.
Usman Musa attempted to escape with leg iron through our sealer. On that very particular day, he attempted to escape with that leg iron through our sealer, but he stepped on that boggler where he failed to escape and fall down. He injured, he wounded his hands. I think there is dressing and other antibiotics. Yes, I can't answer you this question.
Despite denials, witnesses and family members confirmed brutal abuse.
Saboda kumbura ma hannuwan suke bai komi ke su bai iya sai dai tantankwashe haka. Da nan kugu ne da nan duk kugu ne da nan wajen bayan shi wurin kugun ne shi ma. Da kanshi.
A gabana ina cikin office in ake mashi wannan duka.
The hospital reports confirmed the amputation was due to negligence. When I asked Usman, he states he was not taken to any hospital. This discrepancy raises serious questions about the official account.
Drip na ruwa, irin wanda ake ƙarin ruwan nan, sai suka ta tsaya min a hannu, samun cincin bani. Aka ɗauke ni aka ce a tai da ni ɗaki, iska bin wani magani guda ɗaya da vitamin C. To nan a haka kullum suna min wannan abin, kullum suna min ba in ce masu ku taimaka ku kira gidanmu don Allah ko asibiti akan suka ce ai su ma suna magani.
While this investigation is ongoing, the facts remain that this young man is now without a wrist.
Tun daga ranar da abin ya faru, kwana 20 da wani abu ban ƙara bacci ba. Ko da rana idan na ɗan rintsa aka ɗan buɗe ƙofa, yana tashi. Dan Allah abinda suka yi min a hukunta su, sannan ina da buri a rayuwata kala da kala sosai, ina da buri, amma yanzu sanadiyar rashin hannun nan ba ni da wani abin da zan iya wanda nake da burin cewa zan iya yi da hannu biyu.
I called the special advisor to the governor on drugs and narcotics multiple times, Despite the investigation being open, he refused to pick up. The authorities' refusal to answer questions and provide transparency only deepened the suspicion. If this was truly an investigation, why deny question? Justice for Usman and other victims is overdue. In Katsina, for News Central, Rukayya Jibiya.
Now, because of News Central's report, Katsina Governor Diko Rada set up a committee to look into the center. The committee found some officials culpable. They are Baba Ruga, the head of the center, Abdul Zahir Abrakar, the principal, Bala Abrakar, the vice principal, as well as Yunusa Yusuf, a porter, and Murtala Suleiman, a casual staff member at the center. Now, to support the rehabilitation of Usman, Governor Rada approved 970,000 naira for his medical bills and a further 35 million naira for the procurement of a sensor-enabled prosthetic hand to aid his recovery and reintegration into society. Our correspondent who covered the story is also working on an update, and we'll bring that to you soon. Ladies.
Well, honestly, I would first even commend the actions of the governor, Diko Rada, and I would also say that beyond setting up a committee, honestly, justice needs to be served. This is broad daylight brutality. How are you setting up a reform center? Young people are going in there and coming back worse than they got there. If not that visitor saw him and reported the case to his family. Even when his family went there and tried to see him, they were denied access. And now we're hearing different stories. You're claiming that he fell while trying to escape. I appreciate that a committee has been set up to look into it, because normally I would have said, oh, we're about to get into another round of we condemn, we'll investigate, and we'll look into it. But thankfully, a committee has been set up and financial aid has been given to him and his family. But let's not just stop at the committee that is being set up. I would like to implore that the governor would, further make sure that the committee at least looks into this until a resolution is given. Justice has to be served.
How these things happen, it still bewilders me. We set up agencies, we set up places that are supposed to do some particular purpose, and you abandon it. Because if there was proper channels of accountability, who are these people that are even in charge of the center? Who is the person that is supposed to be overseeing the affairs of this rehabilitation center or reformatory center? That is why they can just run riot. There's so many places, it's just like every day you wake up, motherless babies are springing, homes are springing up everywhere. Yeah. So somebody will just wake up, even though the late Governor Musa Yar'Adua set up this center with a purpose. Who are the people in charge of overseeing this? Are you so supposed to create a facility and just let it go to what? Did you look at the facility itself? Did you see all the slabs where they put plates on the table? Who is running it?
And this is a facility, like you said, it was set up for a primary purpose, and now it has gone against everything it was originally set up for. And this, for me, I'm thinking how many, this is just one that we're able to capture. And thanks to our correspondent there, I mean, she kept saying, the man just kept saying, I cannot comment on this, I cannot comment. What is wrong with you? You can't comment on it, so what is it? Your ancestors
are the principal?
Are the ones going to comment on it? Why are you the principal? So for me, I'm thinking, if this is the one that we've been able to expose, how many others are there? In different spheres, this is just about rehabilitation. The hospital said his hand didn't need to be amputated.
It was neglect. It was left
oh my God.
So I want to pick up on Catherine's point in terms of how many more. Do you know how many are in this country? They don't. All of them are not called reform centers.
Yeah.
Some of them are under religious bodies in small places, mushrooms setting up, coming up, and all of that. Some of them, I think last year or two, for a while, almost every few months, they were discovering one of these, like Amaljiri centers somewhere in the north, where the children were being abused, pushed out to go and make money, and then brought back in and being abused sexually, mentally, physically.
Marks on his body.
See the marks on his back.
What did he do?
There was one of the videos you see that the mark was on top of another mark. So one had not healed, there was another on top of it.
And then I think it was the victim who was saying something like, immediately he got in, they first of all tied him
down
40 as he walked up. It's honestly saddening. Like you said, I'm sure that the Reform Center was for, you know, was with good intent, but we need to now look beyond just having reform centers. I'm sure that even, you know, in the health sector, they're still talking about some of these rehabilitation centers for youth. But if you, it's like creating a therapy, a place for therapy, and then putting people battling depression in charge of it. Definitely, you're going to have madmen running madmen. To an extent, also, it's not just about having the center. The people who run it, if they're not sane, and unfortunately, it's not just we're not just battling drug abuse or, you know, substance abuse. There's also pride abuse.
Yes. Look at these people. What are their qualifications? How did they become the head of this reformatory center? Because there's so many things I want to question. Because this is not like, it's not like, oh, they're criminals. Many of them is about drugs, maybe women delinquency, and those are the things that they are in for. So who are these people? Who is funding this rehabilitation center?
Before it was being funded by the state, because it was opened by the former governor, apparently had just continued having funding, not a lot of oversight.
You see, that's the thing. That's where I was getting at. Because I say, I kind of blame the government, because you just forget these things have existed, so you come out there. I know someone say, but how many things, how many projects is the government supposed to oversee? That's why you cannot do things on your own. You must have delegates that you say, okay, there has to be accountability, responsibility. What has this center done? What's the report like in the center? You must, everybody's working for government. Government in a particular ministry or government, whatever. We have people that are not, they just go there to talk and sell market and go home. So why don't you delegate, have task forces and delegate to every development center, rehabilitation center, whatever it is that the government is doing under that umbrella, have people to go there from time to time to check out physically what's going on there. But now it's as if the government, I applaud the Katsina state government, but it seems like now you want to quickly overcompensate, because this is like like you say, a unicorn. This is the one that has come to their attention, so you want to make it right. And you make it right and you're overcompensating.
But there's still other people in that reformatory center. Should they be closing it down and doing proper investigation and repurpose the center so that it can function for the purpose which it was created?
So with all your questions, we're not going to get answers to all the questions today. But Rukaya is doing a follow-up report on this, and once that comes, we'll also bring it to you, because the governor has made several statements regarding the situation at the reformatory, and we'll have to leave it at that for now.
All right. I mean, thankful for News Central that keeps spotlighting these issues that you would usually not see anywhere. Definitely will keep you updated on that. Now, he's 92 years old. He's been in power for over 4 decades, and now he says the best is yet to come. This October, Paul Biya, the world's oldest sitting president, is running for an 8th term as president of Cameroon. Coming up, we'll dive into what Biya's re-election bid reveals about power, democracy, and political fatigue in Africa. Joining us is social justice activist Kathleen Ndongmo. Okay, stay with us.
Now in Cameroon, it seems that power doesn't change hands, it digs deeper. At 92 years old, President Paul Biya is reportedly gearing up for yet another term. It's not even reportedly, he has said it. After spending already over 4 decades at the helm of power. For many Cameroonians, this isn't just another re-election or election cycle. It's a symbol of political stagnation, lost futures, and a democracy in name only. And if you see those visuals, those are from decades ago. But Biya isn't alone. Across Africa, we're seeing a troubling pattern. Constitutions rewritten, term limits scrapped, and leadership that refuses to let go. So what happens when power becomes permanent? And how does a nation breathe or build when leadership becomes a lifetime appointment? Joining us is Cameroonian activist, strategist, and a fierce voice for justice, Kathleen Ndongmo, to help us unpack what Paul Biya's re-election really means for Cameroon. Let's say re-election bid, let's not make it a done deal, for democracy and also for a continent still struggling with succession. Kathleen, it's good to have you back.
It's always nice to be
our full-blooded Cameroon at you are half Cameroon at Are you ready for this?
I am, definitely. You started on a very fantastic note in terms of you know, it's not just Cameroon, it cuts across.
Yeah.
Yesterday, a friend of mine was saying a ghost is running for president in Cameroon. Because nobody actually knows if President Paul Biya actually, you know, lucidly said, I want to run. So the question has been, did he even say it? So my friend said a ghost is running for president in Cameroon. In Togo, a dictator is making young people run around the streets. In Kenya, there is someone who was elected on the promises of democracy, and everyone is being tear-gassed and people are being buried. In Tanzania, we have a woman whom no one knows whether she's leading or not. It's going to be 50 years if Biya does 7 more years. This is the 43rd year. It will be 50 years. Question, how many Africans live to the age of 50?
This is the question, because when I first heard it, I will not lie. The closest person to family, family, we entered this talk, and remember I told you, I said, it's okay, I don't want to talk politics anymore, let's move on. I thought of her and I said to myself, I felt ashamed. Yes. Pulo Paterla.
It's shameful.
For the daddy. I said, God, how can somebody, you have, you know, as you say, Nigeria, you have no shame. Try and have small shame. But so I'm just going to ask you now, like you've established, this is the 43rd year, if it goes. What was your gut feeling? What was the first thing that came to your mind when you heard he's going to run again? And what have the people who pay, what have the people at home saying?
My gut feeling, I've been in this, you know, civil society since I was 13 years old. So when you have expended your youth fighting for what you believe can be possible in a country that has every resource to make it possible, the dividends of democracy, and year after year, term after term, you find that, you know, one person, who is not a monarch, by the way, stays there and gives nothing but regression, repression, oppression. I've been jailed as a journalist in Cameroon. My first gut feeling was, this is probably not meant for TV. Something has got to give. Something has got to give. And this is the same yearning that Cameroonians have. Cameroonians are yearning for a systemic change. It's not just political transition anymore. We need every system overhaul. We need all of the gerontocrats. Yeah. All of them are above 80. We need all of you to just go, disappear. We need a new country. It almost seems like we need to be deneocolonial. Because everything that the average Cameroonian experiences, you cannot term it an achievement of any sort. In 1982, for example, and I was on one of New Central shows lately, and someone was talking about achievements. In 1982, we had a university that gave allowances monthly to students. Yes. That has disappeared.
Bursary.
Yes. That has completely disappeared. For everything that the supporters of Biya would call achievement, you have 10,000, you know, other things to pin on impoverished, you know, there's no dividend of this so-called democracy. I'm frustrated as a Cameroonian.
I know how passionate and how painful this must be, because this is not just, it's not a Nigerian problem, thankfully. It's an African problem. And for me, I see it like a disease. Because so now, how are we going to look at this thing a little more critically, health-wise? Looking at this continuous hold on power. What does this talk about the health? Or should we say, I no longer believe in democracy personally. Because for Africa, I'm doing some courses and I'm beginning to rethink my stand on democracy, because it's like a privileged few pretending to rule the populace. And it's no longer, for me, it doesn't define what we call democracy is like government of the people, by the people, for the people. For the people. For me, I see that government of the people, by a privileged few who oppress the other people. So what does this speak generally for democracy in Cameroon and by extension, Africa as a whole, because this disease is not being suffered only by Cameroonians. It cuts across Africa, just in different facades. It's like cancer, that one is on the leg, another is on the colon, another is on this. How can we expatiate on the health of this?
I think that there is a playbook in general in Africa, which I want to call an autocrat's or a dictator's playbook. And I think it is something that, you know, different African leaders who have been autocrats have copied from one or the other. Biya, being the longest serving head of state right now, could very well be who taught Museveni, you know, to deliver the kind of autocracy that is being delivered in Uganda. So the health of, or you have an Obiang who is, I mean, it's really sad. And you know, what is more sad, Lolo, is that Central Africa, when you look at all of these leaders, you look at Sassou Nguesso, you look at Obiang, you look at, all of Central Africa is literally the orphan of Africa. In Cameroon today, a statistic came out that 12,000 Cameroonians have immigrated to Canada in less than 6 months. Yes.
I thought we were bad.
That is how bad a country of 30 million people.
As in, it's not even half of us here, 30 million. Exactly. And this is what they've resorted to, just fleeing. This is just plus Lagos. That's the whole country.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, Lolo, the health, what speaks to the health of Africa is that if our nations don't wake up, if a Cameroon does not transition, because this is a pivotal election, if Cameroon does not transition, what is going to happen would be much worse than a people just going on the streets and complaining. There are over 100,000 Cameroonian refugees in the south of Nigeria. So you're going to, wait for it, Nigeria, just wait. A lot of Cameroonians are coming your way.
Yes.
They will come here to find succor, to find dividends, to find health, to find food, and it's going to happen like that across Africa and African borders.
Yeah. If Cameroonians are coming to Nigeria to find succor,
where the Nigerians go,
it must be bad, you know. And honestly, right? So some people will argue that longevity brings stability. Although I beg to differ. It's always good for, you know, fresh perspectives. It's good to, you know, they keep saying the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but it's like
tomorrow
it's either
comes.
the youth are not born yet, or the tomorrow has not, you know, today has still not turned into tomorrow. And you know that is obvious in the case of Cameroon, where you see the Anglophone crisis, you see the youth unemployment, you see growing repression here and there. And I'm not even going to ask if this long rule has brought more harm than good, but you started off with talking about over 12,000 Cameroonians relocated in 6 months. What level of harm would you say that this has done to Cameroonians? Because I know that it's not a question of whether or not it's done more harm. What level of harm do you think it has caused to Cameroonians? And how would you say the level of hope is? You know, there's a way, they say, Yorubas, people, please help me.
This poverty
It's
basically like saying that anything may happen, but joy cometh in the morning. It's just a very loose translation. That's not it.
So when you
hope delayed, will give you like anxiety.
So when you hope for something for too long, you now become, you know, you basically, what's the word? You lose hope, right? Yeah. So how would you say that this has affected Cameroonians, both the young and the old?
There's been a drastic, you know, dimension, or drastic dimensions of continuous yearning from Cameroonians for better. Because I was born in 1979. The president came into power in 1982, so I was barely 2 years old, right? And every generation after, you know, he came into power have known nothing but sorrow, poverty. Security was far better in 1982 than it is in 2025. There is the Anglophone crisis, which has been burning for almost 10 years. There is the North with Boko Haram that has been going on for almost 15 years. There is excessive petty crime in the country right now. In 4 decades, We've had fewer functional airports. The 2 airports we currently have international in Cameroon are in a state of complete decay. You know, the advanced age of the president means that right now, he probably is not even the one making decisions for anybody. This is a man who should be in preparing for, or had been retired a long time ago. I can't even say preparing for retirement. On the international stage, Cameroon is usually absent. Nobody knows, you know, how whether we are brokering economic deals. You know, it's a sad state of affairs. The roads are in complete disrepair. People are dying on the roads in quantum. So to answer your question, you cannot put, you know, a number or an emotion on how bad it is in Cameroon right now. When people stay in power for this long in so-called democracies and have zero dividend of the same, best believe that one day they are going to pick up arms and attack their oppressors.
You made mention of something, saying that you're not even sure if Paul Biya is the one making the decisions. And that's something I always find interesting. There's a masthead. There tends to be a figurehead, whoever the president or quote-unquote leader of the government is. But across the continent, you have people who hold them up. You know, when we talk about the Sani Abacha loot, I was telling somebody, we focus on what he himself is directly tied to. We did not focus on all the other people who were siphoning on the side while he was stealing. Paul Biya is 92, seen sometimes in a wheelchair. We're not focusing on the people who wheel him out to get sun. Absolutely. The ones who are holding him up because it benefits them. We're not focusing, we'll talk about Museveni as well, who has said that it's because of all the clamor. The people have said that he should run again. Museveni in Uganda, that the people have said he should run again. Yeah. You know how Nigerian politicians will say, I cannot ignore the call of my people. Everyone, they've been coming to you.
They must have been hearing the call in the spirit world.
It's like YouTubers,
because that's who we are as Africans.
Many of you have been DMing me. Nobody asked you.
Do you understand? So the reason I'm asking that question is these people cannot stay in power without people who keep them in power. Absolutely. What do we do? Because a lot of times you remove one to be replaced by somebody similar, or to be replaced by somebody from his political circle, or somebody from his political party, and you're just changing the face, the system and the structures are actually not changing.
The issues that we have in Cameroon also are around, you know, the appointees, or at least the cabal that Biya has surrounded himself with. And if you look at it historically and even now, every single person who is in that cabal has been with him from 1982.
They're as old as he is then, literally.
As old as he is, but worse still, they've moved it to the new generation. I'll give you an example. The CPDM, which is the ruling party, has a youth faction, a youth wing, like any other ruling party.
Yes.
That youth wing has a leader who is the father of a former Biya ruling party stalwart.
He's the father, he's the son.
He's the son of a former,
So inherited democracy.
So inherited autocracy. I'm not going to call this a democracy. This young man and a cohort of other children of
the similar people
came together to raise 30 million sefa, which is almost 75 million naira in today's rate, to take to the president's team as a donation towards
his re-election campaign.
So, you know what you're talking about now reminds me of Nigeria. Because what we're seeing is a transference of that power. It seems like the next generation of some of their children, not all of them, have been put in place to inherit.
They are strategically positioned
to inherit leadership of Nigeria. So if you're talking about clearing out, let their fathers go and retire, what happens to the next generation that comes in?
We're in trouble in Cameroon. We're in trouble in many other countries where this modus, I keep talking about a modus operandi that these people copy and paste. Now, state capture is also one serious factor that is impeding how the turnout of this election is going to be. Every single institution of governance in Cameroon has been captured by the ruling party, the president, and his his cohorts. If you capture that, and then it is inherited by their sons and daughters, we have generational capture right there. So we do not know the Electoral Commission called Elections Cameroon. By the way, for context, every single member of, not just member of government, but public servant of a high level rank, whether it's a director in a cabinet, is appointed by the President of the Republic of Cameroon.
Bruh.
Bro, darling,
So I always say to my Nigerian friends that when Nigeria stops, that's where Cameroon starts.
She actually says Cameroon. She says it in the group chat a lot.
I know, if I'm looking at it, just imagine a Ministry of Health. And in that Ministry of Health, you have chiefs of service. And in those chiefs of service directorates, you have heads of teams. They are appointed by the president. That is how granular this state capture
has gone down.
is. And every single one of these people are either a part of the ruling party or part of the families of those that are currently in power. Therefore, you can see why, even if Biya didn't come out to say for himself that I will run.
It's automatic.
Those people who have benefited from
they're the pillars holding him up.
They are the voices is truly hearing.
The wind beneath his wings.
Those are the voices he's truly hearing.
See, my problem is, okay, you hear these things. I'm sure people who are watching, who are listening will be wondering, so are there no oppositions in Cameroon? Are there no oppositions? What are the opposition leaders, factions, parties doing? Because, or is it just a far-gone conclusion? You know, sometimes sometimes you say, it doesn't make any it doesn't make any difference. I said we get on calls with the family every weekend. I was telling her on Saturday, I said, what I have heard, hence my look where Tolu was talking, what I have heard about this, the streets of politics in Cameroon are not encouraging. So you hear opposition. That's a good question. What are they doing? Or irregard.
Translate.
No, what are they doing? Or are you just sitting down? Are you just watching? Are you just watching? Or maybe there's something they're giving them also, because politics is not.
Kathleen, I want to ask, because I know that the polity and the landscape of Cameroon over the years, what has it been like opposition-wise? And then been any prominent head that you say, there was a time we thought this person could have grabbed power from these.
Because if it was
what has it
like
been
that,
like?
So multipartism, the ruling party was the only party in Cameroon well into the 80s. and multipartism then came. And, you know, there was a playing field for the opposition to come up. And one of the strongest opposition parties that, you know, came up was the UPC, the SDF, whose leader, top leader, John Fundi, died 2 years or so ago. So there has been, opposition parties have been there. But the more there has been an opportunity for a level playing field, the more the ruling government has found levers to stifle that playing field. For example, currently, there is one of the strongest opposition candidates is Maurice Kamto.
That's what we're saying.
And he has a lot of popular, support. But the ruling party, hang on, what can we do to ensure? And I've always said as an activist that what an African dictator will not do with the barrel of a gun, he will do with the barrel of a pen.
Yes.
They go and they legalize oppression, repression, repressive laws. Currently, if you are an opposition party in Cameroon, without an elected official, you cannot file a presidential candidate.
What does that mean, without an elected official?
An elected official, let's say in the assembly.
So if you don't have any member
of your party,
you can't feel the presidential candidate.
A presidential.
Let's go. They tie the rules.
These are the elected officials put there by the president.
Yes.
If you do not have an elected, and that is how automatically Maurice Kamto is out. Because his own party has no elected officials.
I don't even any elected officials in any party. In any
there are one or two. So what Maurice Kamto did recently, last week, was to join Manidem, which is a party that has an elected official.
But is that party going to agree to make him the presidential candidate?
They have, but guess what? Currently, there's a lot of, under envelopes going around to try to ensure that the party does not field him. But I think the election is in October. I think before October, trust me, there'll be some new law to ensure that. Currently, we have 74 candidates who have applied to run for president.
And they have elected officials?
Well, nobody is saying that, you should not apply.
Keep hope alive.
They are saying that you can apply, then we are going to screen. So 30 million.
Okay, so pause. I want to see, this answer might be like a thesis from Kathleen, but we'll take it because this is not just a Paul Biya Cameroon conversation. As we said earlier, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni confirmed a few weeks ago that he intends to run for a 7th term in next year's presidential election. The two of them are 1 and 2, or I think 1, 2, and 3. They're the top 5 oldest serving presidents.
No, don't forget my uncle.
Serving leaders there was one before it in the African continent. Now, the 80-year-old leader has been in power since 1986, and his ruling National Resistance Movement Party has already altered the country's constitution twice to allow Museveni to extend his rule. This isn't just about one man. Across Africa, we're seeing similar patterns from Uganda to Congo to Equatorial Guinea. Kathleen, it feels like a stale, repetitive question. Why is it so hard for African leaders to let go? Is it greed? Are they protecting themselves from the inevitable corruption allegations or investigations? Is it I feel like I own the what's the psychology? Because let's not also forget, a lot of these older leaders started off as freedom fighters, and that's what I want to say baffles me. It's not only baffles me, it pisses me off. A lot of them started off as freedom fighters, fighting for a lot of the countries that are not democracies now, and then they have now become the same evil that they were fighting.
I think it's important to understand geopolitics sometimes, because as much as a ghost is running here, a dictator is running amok there, the bottom line is that a Traore in Burkina Faso is not very much liked by the West.
He's their grandson.
Why is it so difficult for them to let go of power? It's because it is so easy for them to hold on to power. I was going to do a thesis, but hey, I think it's easier to say it's really easy for Biya got power on a platter of gold. Yes. The former president got up one day, nobody knows what happened, he just resigned. Nobody knows why he resigned till date. History has not been very kind in telling us the story, but he was not a freedom fighter in any way, shape, or form. And he's gotten, and he has, completely brought the country to its knees. It's very easy for them to stay in power because we need to see and acknowledge how, one, we Africans, regionally, how we do not contribute to upsetting status quo in different countries. In Senegal, the people themselves fought for their own, freedoms, and they have arguably Africa's most stable democracy right now. But you see, if a Senegalese wakes up today and starts fighting the cause of a Cameroonian, it's trouble. Yeah. I am a Cameroonian. I live in Nigeria. I remember going on the streets for Bring Back Our Girls, and the first thing people told me on Twitter is, go back to your country. Is it your country? Why are you fighting for Nigeria? You be Nigeria, Abi you be Niger. And I asked myself, if we Africans cannot fight for Africans in a Pan-African, coalition of fighters to ensure that, listen, what obtains in Senegal must obtain in Cameroon, must obtain in Mali, must obtain in Gabon, must obtain in Nigeria, then we're not helping, ourselves.
Anyway.
That is one. Two, if we continue to be, to pander to the West and to have the West interfere in every single thing that we do.
Man, why wouldn't they interfere when we as a people, we are not organized, we are not united? Look at what you're saying. Africa is not for Africans. I mean, Africans not for Africa. There should be a seamless transition in Africa. Senegal should be able to interfere in Namibia, should be able to run a cause. If the Senegalese are pursuing a cause, the Malawians should be able to say, okay, we are solidly behind Senegal in this. Kenya can say, but we are still individualizing our problems. And that is why the West will continue to interfere.
That's me. When Tolu, your question is so valid to the point where you begin to ask yourself, and we keep saying these things, where are the ECOWAS? Where are the SEMA?
I was going to ask you, honestly, I was going to ask that, what is the responsibility of the African Union, ECOWAS? Is it that we don't...
When will Nigeria penalize Cameroon, for example? No, seriously. We wait for America to begin to penalize our heads and our leaders and our ministers and everything. When are Africans going to say, what's happening in your country is intolerable, therefore we are going to do this, that, and the other to ensure that, you know, we get systemic change and the people get systemic change. If these things don't happen, then we leave it to the people. Another question I have been asked is, why are Cameroonians so apathetic? They are not doing anything. For 35 years, Cameroonians have fought this regime.
People get tired.
People have been killed, people have been in prison, people have run away. You know, we live in a country that has two colonial national languages, two mentalities, two systems, two structures, two legal frameworks. You know, it's very difficult for you to be able to have these two. The framework is different. The way if you go to a court in Anglophone Cameroon, it's different. If you go to a court in Francophone Cameroon, it's different. If you lose your husband in Francophone Cameroon and he was an Anglophone Cameroonian, you're in trouble. You know,
and you understand why it has been kept that way, because it's part of the system that works for them.
It never works for the people. So the only way for us to have change, and which is my biggest concern in this election, because it's spoiling to be another selection. Yes. The only way is, and which is so unfortunate, is probably the hard way.
So let's talk about the hard way, especially for young Africans. You are seeing a change. I noted, I think sometime last year, that we have come from the era of globalization to an era of nationalization. We hear a lot of nationalistic talk. I think the first term of Trump made it worse. This second term has just completely taken it through the roof. But a lot of people are not paying attention to who's being elected in Italy, who's rising up the ranks in France, who's rising up the ranks across Europe. Germany is of concern to me.
Absolutely.
They're sliding, they're backsliding. Absolutely. So you're moving back to an era of nationalization, which means countries are going to become much more anti-immigrant. And that's actually to do with if you can afford to actually immigrate.
They're making it more expensive.
So even if you can afford, whether you afford or you can't, you're going to countries that no longer are as open as they used to be. So more of us are here. What happens if Cameroon... Kathleen, it's almost like we agree that he's likely going to win. What happens for all the young people, for the families that have lost people, for the young people who are looking at Africa, a Cameroon, a Togo, or wherever it is, and they don't see a future that includes them? What happens if we don't get it right? The youngest continent in the world. We want to do what is it after African Free Trade Area, Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. It's like there's nothing we get right. So what happens if Cameroon, he's re-elected, he's reselected, whatever you want to call it, and you see another, how many years is the term? 7.
Yes, it's a 7 years.
So he's going to be over 100.
So here's the thing. If he's selected well, there might be, there are all sorts of thoughts that there might be some sort of violence. People are extremely frustrated, but then you also have an army in Cameroon that's extremely loyal and extremely well paid. Look, I always say that a Cameroonian police and a Nigerian police, they are not the Cameroonian policeman are Baba.
That's intentional.
It's intentional. So he knows how to pay the price. So he is a very quiet guy. He doesn't talk too much, but he knows how to play the game of political chess. So what is going to happen is you would have a lot of in the immediate term, you would have a lot of skirmishes which are going to be quelled by the army. But the man might not
live to see
the full term. He might outlive, he might not. People are just hoping that in that caucus of a cabal
that he has,
how might we have someone that rises?
But that's hoping on something that you cannot, that is like smoke.
Yes.
That you can't hold.
Because if we're hoping,
that's true.
If we're hoping that it will rise from within his cabal, then that means it's an impossible ask as far as I'm concerned. Because these are people whose the culture, they have learned it.
Yeah.
So it's just an extension of it. What is the likelihood that some of these African countries actually needs a takeover?
Good question. The thing with the takeover, a lot of Cameroonians will tell you that they do not see a military takeover happening in Cameroon anytime
It has to
soon.
be the people. The military has been fed to keep quiet,
they
to follow
really
orders.
have been fed. There might be some surprises, who knows? But Cameroonians don't see it that way. What we see happening is exactly what happened
in Kenya,
in Anglophone Cameroon, where people were marginalized and pushed for 60 years, and then they said, enough.
I'm not going through this wall again. I'm turning back.
I'm turning back, and I'm going to get at you. We feel that certain regions are going to join that clamor. The central region, where the president is from, currently does not have as much support as he had in the 2018 election or the 2011 election. More and more people from his region, because his region is arguably the least developed, funnily enough. More and more people from his region who said, we supported you because you are our son, are now saying, enough, Chudwa party, you have to go, and we don't want you anymore. And so when if we have more and more voices from these different regions who did not see the Anglophone Cameroonians problem as a governance problem, we then have the opportunity to have more and more pushback against either him or anybody within his cabal that takes over.
Okay. All right, guys, thank you for being our guest today on Jasiri. It has been a full one. And guys, Paul Biya may be the face, but he is not the only story. Across Africa, the pattern repeats. Leaders who rewrite constitutions, silence opposition, and call it stability. But beneath that surface, something else is stirring. Young people are watching. Civil societies are organizing. Voter apathy is giving way to a quiet urgency. And even in places where power feels permanent, history reminds us nothing lasts forever. So the question isn't just how long a man can rule, it's how long a people can be silenced before they decide enough is enough. We'll see you tomorrow.
Wow.